So in this question, it says we've been assigned a task of helping a grade 9 math class develop equations of linear graphs. Okay, so the user is entering a pair of xy coordinates and it's outputting the equation of a straight line that passes through both of those points. And it wants the equation displayed in slope y-intercept form. So there's our slope y-intercept form. And it says it wants the slope and y-intercept as both decimals and fractions, and we can't use the built-in fraction function that exists in Python. So Python will do the fractions for us, but this question wants us to think about how we would be able to deal with that ourselves, just using variables. And it says don't worry about converting to lowest terms. So we need loops, or we need a greatest common divisor algorithm to do that. And I'm not concerned about that with this particular question. Okay, so remember, we are dealing with a problem-solving question, and it is not entirely obvious how you might go ahead and get the answer to this. So we're looking at input, processing, and output. Our input is going to be 4 numbers, right? The x and y points for 2 points on a Cartesian grid. So we need like an x1, a y1, an x2, and a y2. And the output is just going to be so m and b as decimal numbers and m and b as kind of fractions. And we'll have to take a look at how to deal with like the positives and negatives that might show up there, but that might be a bit too complex for this stage of your programming knowledge, so maybe we'll deal with that at another time. Right, but let's look at the processing here for a second, how we're going to figure out what the m and b values are. And this being a grade 11 course, we should and this being a grade 9 math concept, we should have somewhat of an idea how to do this. But let's take a look. All right, so we know slope is rise over run. So if we have 2 pairs of points, then our slope is going to be y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So that's our m value. But I have to keep in mind, and that will give me a decimal number, right? That's easy to get because it's just Python will just do the division. Just make sure you put brackets around your formula here, so it'll do the subtractions before it does the division. But I also need to think about how it might be written as a fraction. Okay, so I mean it already looks like a fraction. Like the numerator of my fraction is y2 minus y1, and my denominator is x2 minus x1. I just have to calculate those separately, right? And then just display those 2 separate variables. So I would need like a just maybe let m be, so like there's a numerator and there's a denominator, right? And my mn is just going to be y2 minus y1, and my md is going to be x2 minus x1. Okay, so getting m to display as a fraction is pretty straightforward. We just have to print out mn and then a slash and then an md. Okay. Y-intercept, that's the b value. Okay, so we know the equation is y equals mx plus b. So if you rearrange that equation to solve for b, then b is equal to y minus mx. Okay, and we just need to pick values for x and y. So x and y can be one of our 2 points, right? Either x1 or y1. So let's pick x1, y1 to substitute for y and x. Okay, so our b equation would become y1 minus mx x1. Now if we just wanted to do it as a decimal number, this would be totally sufficient, right? Because m is calculated as a decimal, that's fine, and Python will do the we'll do that calculation and it will spit out a decimal answer. But we do have to think about how it's going to be as a fraction as well. So the fraction, again, has a numerator and denominator, right? So it's got to have a like a bn and a bd associated with it, okay? And we don't have anything obvious in that formula that might make it look like that. So what I'm going to need to do is I got to substitute my fraction that's up here and then kind of do the algebra to make it look something like that. So I can rewrite this as y1 minus mn over md times x1. Okay. And now I've got to deal with the just some common denominators to rearrange this equation to make it look better. So the common denominator here would be md. So I'd get y1 minus y1 md minus mn x1 all over md. Okay. So now it looks like a fraction with the denominator, right, equal to the denominator of the slope and the numerator equal to y1 times the denominator of the slope minus the numerator of the slope times x1. Okay, and then again I could just print it out, bn, and then I print out a slash and then print bd. Right? So I guess these are the formulas that I would need. I need these, and I need these. Okay, so those will give me my fraction values, and then I can divide to get my decimal values, and then I just have to print it out in a kind of nicely formatted way. So let's go into our IDE and start this out. So we'll get our inputs, we'll do our processing, and we'll do our outputs. Okay, so the inputs are the 2 points. So I need an x1 input. So let's say x, and then a y1. We'll say y. Okay, and we need to do that again for x2 and y2. Okay, so first point, second point. The processing, okay, we're going to calculate the slope value. So my mn, that's going to be y2 minus y1. My md is going to be x2 minus x1. Okay. And my then my slope, I guess, would be mn divided by md. Okay, now let's do the y-intercept. So my numerator of the y-intercept was y1 times md minus mn times x1. The bd was just equal to the md. Okay, and my final b value as a decimal was just bn divided by bd. Okay. So coding's easy once we figure it out, okay, because we already have the formulas. Okay. And finally the output. So I got to say y equals, and then let's do the decimal values first. So round m to 1 decimal spot, and then we need an x plus, and then we'll round b to 1 decimal spot. Okay, and now we can print out the fractions. So we'll do mn slash md x plus bn slash bd. Okay, and we'll see how that works out here. Okay, hopefully I have no errors. So let's do my x value, x1. So let's do 3, 4, 5, and 9. Okay, let's see how the output looks here. Okay. So again, we could check with our calculators to make sure that's going okay, or see with somebody else, or use a calculator on the internet to, given 2 points, produce the equation just to verify that our math is correct. I mean, the output isn't pretty here. I mean, I have this plus and I have a minus, right? A plus and then a minus 7/2 there. I can't deal with that right now unless I had if statements, which is in the next part of the course. So I think this is probably an appropriate way to display the data. That the point of the exercise was not to make this look pretty. It was to use the input processing output model of problem solving and try to and how we would problem solve using variables. And I think we accomplished that task. So there's nothing there I would definitely, I would think that would need to happen. It also, I don't believe, can handle vertical lines, right? Like if you did, say, 5, 9, 5, 12, okay? Yeah, it's going to give a division by 0 because my x values are the same, okay? Again, I can't handle that yet without some more programming knowledge. So if you're doing something like that, that would be to be expected. It's kind of a limitation of your program at this point. But again, not the point, right? And these are in lowest terms right now, but I mean, if you came up with this with a set of inputs that was not in lowest terms, as I said before, that was not a requirement of the assignment either to put it into lowest terms.